southern border crisis like you've never seen it before. What's harder to catch, people or narcotics?
Both.
You can see them running up north.
On the ground with the National Guard.
It's a very, very high violent area on the Mexico side.
And on the Rio Grande itself.
Ever since this crisis started back in January, Border Patrol's been pulled from the field, keeping them from doing their normal duties.
To show you why illegal immigration might be the least of our problems.
From the banks of the Rio Grande River, good evening, I'm Leland Vittert. The Mexico border is right there in the middle of the river. Mexico itself, no more than 200 yards away. Another week and there is another crisis at the border. We are at the epicenter. Cartels are exploiting the void left by law enforcement sent to deal with the Haitian migration crisis that's about 400 miles from here. Across the Rio Grande Valley, gun running, drug smuggling, and human trafficking is at an all-time high. In many parts of the area, in the money food chain for the cartels, you got guns, drugs, currency, human smuggling. What's the order?
Human smuggling right now is their biggest commodity. They're making millions and millions of dollars a month off of human smuggling because it's a less risk for them as far as moving narcotics.
Welcome to what has become a routine traffic stop in South Texas on a Sunday afternoon. Forget a broken taillight, you've got four people who each paid $25,000 for a VIP smuggling trip into the United States. It feels like the cartel's almost one step ahead of you guys and of the administration.
They are, because they know the loopholes, they know how to exploit them.
This is the path that illegal immigrants walk on from the Rio Grande a half a mile that way here into America. The Border Patrol's given up on stopping them or capturing them, but they have erected these conveniently located signs to let folks know to keep walking about another half a mile so they can simply be processed. But why is it that people walking across is something you just can't even bother to deal with?
Because of the policies that are in place for now. The policies in place for now makes it easier for these illegal immigrants to come across with no resistance, and that's why they're doing it. And as the message gets sent to their home countries, more people are going to continue to come. That's what we're seeing day in and day out.
Runners are different than raft people. How?
If they're trying to come across and not be caught, they're either moving some type of product or a high-value individual or guns, drugs.
Holy cow, there's like 30 people. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15. We'll give you the state of play right now. That's the Border Patrol drone. You can see a couple of the flashlights. Those are the state troopers yelling they found somebody or somebodies. $7,000 to bring you from El Salvador to here.
Yeah.
This area right here is a very, very high violent area on the Mexico side. A lot of cartel infighting, report after report every night of machine gun fire. There's a lot of cartel overlap here, and that's the reason why they're fighting.
A lot of cartel overlap, and they overlap here because of how valuable this ground is for smuggling.
Absolutely.
This video sounds like a firefight in Syria right now, and it was recorded at that house.
From that house, yeah.
And that's the cartels fighting. Those aren't handguns.
No.
That's heavy weapons.
Yeah, that's heavy weapons.
It's a little different, you know. Jesse James had a 6-shooter, and now the cartel has RPGs. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about walls. The wall you're seeing right here is privately built, and the troopers out on the water tell me this is one part of the river they don't have to patrol, hence why we can go fast through it. So the technology that the cartels have is as good as the technology that you guys have or close.
Yeah, I would say.
It's kind of scary.
It is.
And you realize that they probably have the same kind of weapons that you guys do.
Yes.
We're in one of the most deserted parts of the Rio Grande, and we've stopped on the Texas Highway Patrol boat. You can see this is a trough, a drainage ditch that the coyotes have taken over to bring down either people or drugs or guns. They can come right across the river here, and then they've made this trail to head right up into Texas. These wristbands are given out by the cartels to the people they're smuggling across. Each color and each different design, much like a nightclub, represents a different cartel and a different service that the people being smuggled have bought.
Right, so ever since this crisis started back in January, Border Patrol's been pulled from the field, keeping them from doing their normal duties, which being out there on the field, deterring any criminal activity, arresting or apprehending illegal immigrants that are coming across, but they're not. They're stuck in processing centers. So now the state of Texas is having to fill those gaps with the resources that we have, state resources.
You're fighting an army that's
Yeah, exactly.
sophisticated.
Exactly.
They've got
Entire army,
intelligence.
yeah, they have surveillance, they have counter-surveillance, technology, tactics, just exactly what we do, the way we train. They're trained the exact same way.
You have to assume that they know where you guys are, both in the air and then on the ground, right?
Correct.
You guys have been doing this now for 10 years or so. What's changed in terms of the cartel tactic?
Bringing all these bodies over, I mean, for them it's 100% profit.
We're seeing more bodies now than we are narcotics in this general area. Before, back in the day, we used to see a lot of narcotics coming across, and it's probably about 50-50.
What's harder to catch, people or narcotics?
Both. They're both hard. They have a lot of scouts along the river, and they'll sit out there on the top of a tree. A lot of the stuff gets through just because all the time in the world to move it. We're limited on the amount of gas that we have. By the time we go back and get refueled, that's the time that they have a big gap to be able to move everything across, you know?
And the manpower, they have the unlimited manpower.
Manpower is so key here in many parts of this area especially, but all across the Texas-Mexico border. The National Guard and Texas State Troopers have taken over the front lines from the Border Patrol, which is overwhelmed, understaffed, and demoralized. We're going to talk to a representative of the Border Patrol, also somebody from the Texas Department of Public Safety, about what's happening in just a couple of minutes. First, though, to the other part of that crisis. The crisis here is so closely related and directly linked to the crisis right now that is happening in Washington, D.C., where Democrats cannot agree on two massive spending bills and increasing the government debt ceiling, potentially having a government shutdown. Hanging in the balance of that is the negotiation over potential amnesty for somewhere between 8 and 11 million illegal aliens that are already in the United States. Kelly Meyer is live in Washington following the negotiations. Good evening, Kelly.
Hey there, Leland. Well, it's already a complicated issue, and giving amnesty to 8 to 11 million people could only make things more complicated. Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal sat down in the Oval Office with President Biden and cried with him as she shared her own personal story of coming alone to America from India. She told the president that they need a pathway to citizenship in this bill, but they are already reaching roadblocks in the Senate, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has already said she won't bring something to the floor if she knows that she doesn't have the votes. That could be a gift to more moderate Democrats with 2022 midterms right around the corner. But Leland, with everything going on up here, from the government shutdown to the debt limit, all of these things, immigration is really taking a back seat here. Leland?
Yeah, it certainly seems potentially expendable as we're thinking about dates here. September 27th, obviously Congress is in session right now. Where are we on the timeline?
Yeah, right now, I mean, they are planning a vote for this infrastructure package on Thursday. That's just hours before the government is set to shut down here. Right now, they can't even get this bill through in terms of the government funding bill and the debt limit bill through. Senate Democrats and Republicans facing off over that. Infrastructure, they're trying to push that through here, but they're already getting pushback on that as well. So getting all of this done and through really is anybody's guess of when this is all going to happen. As you know, deadlines shift time after time here on Capitol Hill, so we are going to be watching this very closely. Leland?
You're going to have a very long couple of nights ahead of you. Kelly, thanks so much. And with that, we bring in Ro Khanna, a Democratic congressman from the great state of California, among other things, co-chairman of Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign. Congressman, good to see you. You agree with Kelly that the chance of 8 to 11 million people getting green cards and amnesty is pretty low right now?
Well, we have a bipartisan framework that even President George W. Bush supported, that the House has passed, of Zoe Lofgren's bill, which would actually allow people to come on worker visas and then actually go back. And I don't understand why their Senate Republicans are opposed to that kind of common sense reform that the House has passed. There's also a long-term path to citizenship that I support. I do think that that is a hard lift. But it's mind-boggling to me that what we've passed in the House, which is basically George W. Bush's policy on worker visas, has not been passed because of Republican opposition in the Senate.
I'll take that as that it's unlikely that that immigration is going to be part of the reconciliation package. But we move on, I'm interested in sort of where we are on this. Are you pretty frustrated as a progressive Democrat that there's 8 relatively moderate Democratic members of the House, 2 relatively moderate Democratic senators who are holding up the president's agenda?
I am frustrated that we can't get behind Joe Biden's agenda. I mean, I think you started out the show saying I was the co-chair of the Bernie Sanders campaign. There are things I want, like Medicare for all, free public college, that aren't in this plan. Joe Biden's calling the shots. This is Joe Biden's agenda, not Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren's agenda. So progressives can line up behind Joe Biden, who's the median of the Democratic Party. Why can't people who are to his right? And it is frustrating that the Democratic Party, that by and large, 48 senators, over 210 House members, are behind the president, and a few people are holding out. But I believe the president will prevail.
And we know he's been twisting arms. Certainly the immigration crisis has not helped him. Latest immigration policy poll for the president, 57% not confident in President Biden's handling of immigration, 43% confident. Do you think that's because there's progressives who think he is too lax about immigration policy, or do you think it's a matter of incompetence?
I think immigration is a very, very difficult issue. It's been a difficult issue for every president. We have to have some common sense. I mean, we're a nation of borders. I believe in borders. We have to also enforce our laws on asylum and refugees. We've always been a nation that has had a process for asylum and refugees. Actually, the person who gave the most eloquent speech about immigration was Ronald Reagan's farewell speech, when he talked about us being a nation of immigrants and what that means for America. So in the case of Haitian refugees or asylum seekers, first we should work with other countries to enforce the first harm principle, which means that those seeking asylum need to go first to the nearest country. And if they are under harm and can be at safety in the nearest country, that's where they have to seek asylum. We need to do a better job of making sure that Haitians have other countries which they may be going to first and being there granted asylum. And then we do need to have the process if they do make it to the United States.
Congressman, you make such a great point about being a nation of laws, and if you're going to be a nation of laws, you've got to have a border. Here's the DHS secretary talking about that with Chris Wallace on Sunday.
Why didn't you stop them from coming into the country?
We did.
Why did you allow them in the country in the first place? Why didn't you build, forgive me, a wall?
We do not agree with the building of the wall.
Won't many of those thousands of people end up settling here in the United States, some of them permanently?
Chris, we have enforcement guidelines in place.
The statistics of your own department show that the flood of people coming illegally across the border has gotten worse under the Biden administration.
So I wouldn't call it a flood, Chris, if I may.
I think there's a lot of people down here in South Texas who'd certainly call it a flood, Congressman, but put the semantics aside. Other than President Trump being for it, is there any reason a wall is a bad idea in your mind?
Yes, I've never been for a wall. I don't think that would solve the issue. I don't think you're going to build a wall on the entire border. I mean, the Great Wall is not how we have 21st century. There could be technology solutions that I'm open to, but the real thing that will solve this is international agreements with other countries, so you have the first harm principle applied, and you actually have other countries recognizing asylum. The reason that they're all coming to the United States is other countries aren't giving them safe harbor or aren't having proper asylum law under international law. And we can have incentives for other countries, Mexico, other countries, to accept their fair share of asylum seekers.
Yeah. At least all the folks we talked to weren't too interested in staying to Mexico, but that's a conversation for a different kind. Congressman, appreciate you making the time, especially during votes, and I know it's going to be a busy week for you. We're going to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How many have been released into the U.S.?
They're released on conditions,
yes.
and approximately, I think it's about 10,000 or so, 12,000.
Have been released?
Yes.
All right, that was the Secretary of Homeland Security under President Trump. That was the current Secretary of Homeland Security talking about the vast majority of the Haitians that were under the bridge have been released, 10 to 12,000 released into the United States. We're going to bring in Chad Wolfe, the former acting Secretary of Homeland Security under President Trump. Good to see you as always. You spent a number of years in charge of the area I'm in right now. What have we missed in our reporting so far?
Well, I think it's very good reporting. I think what I really understood when I looked into the video at the top of the segment was the stress that the Border Patrol officials, the men and women there trying to do that job every day, are under, and that's on a good day. And on top of that, you have a crisis that they're trying to deal with. And I think it becomes very hard. So what we tried to do in the Trump administration is we listened to the operators. What did they need to do their job better? They told us, one, they needed an effective border wall system for that impedance and denial so that they could redeploy assets elsewhere. We gave them that. And then they talked about the asylum system and the flood of folks coming across that border claiming asylum. We know they don't qualify. And so we went to work on that issue, came up with the Remain in Mexico program, or the migrant protection protocols. It works. It was effective. We saw border apprehensions number decrease. We saw those that needing asylum getting that protection, those protections quicker. And we saw that the administration at the onset decided to cancel both of these programs, not because they did any type of analysis and that they were ineffective, but because they were simply done under the Trump administration. And the result is the crisis that we see today.
We talk about the crisis that we see today, but as you listen to the cable news discussion of it, on one side you have the idea of a closed border, or so it's described as that. On the other side, people describe it as an open border policy. Is there a way to have both a secure border and then also provide refuge for the 7 and 8 and 9-year-old kids that I saw who were sent up by their parents and smugglers paid $10,000 or $15,000 to bring them to the United States?
Well, absolutely, and that's what our system is all about, making sure that we both protect the border, but that we provide protections to those that truly qualify for asylum. But in order to do that, you can't simply rest on the policies of the past and the catch and release program that the current administration will have you believe is the right way to do it. You must root out that fraud in the asylum system. You must get that 90% that never qualify for asylum out of the system, so that you can focus on the 10% that truly need the protections of our laws and making sure that they get that so that they can stay here in the U.S. And so that's, again, what the Migrant Protection Protocols, the Remain in Mexico program, was about. It was effective. They did away with that, and then we've gone back to that catch and release to where individuals that need asylum protection today, the 8-year-old or their mother or their father, can't get those protections until years from now, because you have thousands and even millions of folks in that system that are overwhelming that system. The system was never built to operate in this manner, and you need policy and programs that root out that fraud. We had that under the Trump administration. Like I said, they've gone back to a failed catch and release program.
Yeah, certainly the people down here, both with the Texas Department of Public Safety and then also the Border Patrol we've talked to, say that catch and release system is one of the reasons we're just seeing these huge numbers, 200,000 people, the population of Little Rock, Arkansas, every month. It's certainly got to be encouraging to groups, the Haitians, for example, that were let out. They're calling their friends back down in South America. We understand 4,000 more Haitians are on their way. The question, though, is really how much do we know about the people who are coming in? Because it's easy to gloss over and say, oh, 4,000 Haitians, they're here for a better life. Fine. This picture got passed to me by a law enforcement source who says they found somebody near where the Haitians were coming across who was on the FBI terror watch list. It's got to just be dumb luck at some point that you find this person. And at the same time, I'm hearing that for every one person that comes over, 2 or 3 to get through. So are we to believe that 2 or 3 people on the terror watch list got through for this guy having been caught?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, we talk about 200,000 illegal apprehensions in the month of July and August. So if you have that many number of folks being illegally apprehended, you're probably looking at another 50 to 60,000 what we call gotaways. These are individuals that never come into contact with Border Patrol. And so those are the most concerning. We don't know who they are. We don't have the chance to interview them, to biographically look at who they are. And those are the individuals that can really pay the cartels the most amount of money to make sure that they don't cross in a place that is patrolled by Border Patrol. So those are actually the most concerning ones. But I would point back to comments by the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, who recently retired, and he said that there is a national security crisis going on at that border today. It's not just about families, and it's not just about minors seeking refugee or asylum status. This is about criminals. This is about potential terrorists and other very bad actors coming across that border every single day. And I certainly agree with the former chief of the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we certainly saw it, and certainly in terms of the number of dollars involved for the cartels is just incredible. It tells you why they have so much firepower to protect themselves. Great seeing you as always. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
There's miles worth of wall on the southern border just waiting to be put up. When we come back, why work stopped. Now the troopers and Border Patrol are trying to figure out what they're missing, because this group didn't run, they just turned themselves in. But this area is something known for smuggling high-value individuals and drugs and guns and currency. The thought being, put all these people here during shift change so there's a distraction so you can move something far more valuable. It's really hard to describe the anger of rank-and-file Border Patrol members we encountered. They feel sold out by President Biden, who said agents would, quote, pay following orders and using horses to corral illegal immigrants over in Del Rio. And a number of agents we talked to were also discouraged because so many of the people they catch coming across the border are just going to be released into the United States. With that, we bring in Chris Cabrera of the National Border Patrol Council. Good to see you, sir. We appreciate it. The words I've heard: demoralized, overworked, underfunded. Is that fair?
That's very fair.
Why?
Well, you know, you had what happened out in Del Rio, and it's just a distraction from what's going on. What their narrative is nothing like what happened. Yet you had the secretary, you had the president and the vice president, not to mention some Congress people jump on the bandwagon, and there's nothing there. And it's just they're just slandering our agents and pulling them out of the field, and it's not necessary.
Understood that the agents who feel that way, who feel slandered and were on those horses, would be angry. Has that had an effect on the rank and file who are out here patrolling every day?
Most definitely. Every agent I've talked to, I would say every agent in the Border Patrol, which is a big statement, every agent feels that they've been slighted by the administration and to some degree by management for not sticking up to it for them.
What am I missing in that so much of what we saw out in the field over the past 72 hours was Border Patrol processing, not Border Patrol patrolling?
Yeah, you know, this is something that's been going on since 2013. We've been dealing with these. So
it isn't just specific to the Biden administration.
No, but it's gotten worse. We had it somewhat under control last year,
okay.
And we were down to a trickle, and then they opened it up again, and we're right back to where we started, probably even farther behind. And it's something that's very simple. We had programs in place that were sending people back to Mexico to await their hearing. And so it slowed everything down, and we were back to chasing people that were trying to get away, apprehending drug shipments, and it went right back to the babysitting duties, and our guys aren't in the field protecting what they need to protect.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to the issue of the horse patrols for a second, and what the White House had to say about it. The president obviously said they would pay. Jen Psaki from the White House podium was very critical, and she sort of doubled down even after we learned that they weren't even using whips today. Take a listen.
Of course, our Department of Homeland Security will continue to look at and assess, especially as the investigation concludes, what that looks like. They've been suspended in Del Rio, Texas. That was a step in response, of course, directly to those horrific photos.
You look at the photos, and we have them here. Are they horrific?
I don't think they're horrific, especially when you see the other angles of those photos. It's just an agent chasing somebody. That's what we do. That's what we're designed to do.
Do you understand how people would find them bracing or not?
I could see how, you know, people would see that they were, you know, maybe to somebody who doesn't know what a working horse does or what Border Patrol agents do. But I mean, nobody was harmed in that. I mean, nobody was hurt, nobody was hit, nobody was whipped. I don't understand what the big deal is. I think the pictures that show what's actually happening, those aren't seen, and the ones from a creative angle, those are the ones they're jumping on. And I think the president, I think Ms. Psaki, I think Maxine Waters and the vice president owe these agents and our Border Patrol agents an apology.
Is there been a shift here in terms of where people look to for control of the border? Governor Abbott this Sunday said, hey, look, if any of those agents are fired from the horses, we'll take them here for the Texas Department of Public Safety. We were out with DPS. No offense to your agency, but they seem to be doing a lot more of the real grunt work and the patrolling work than you guys do.
Yeah, and you know, I'm kind of conflicted there because as a Border Patrol agent, it's sad to see that somebody has to step in and do our job. But as a Texan, I'm proud that my state is stepping in and doing what the federal government won't do. It is a shame that what we're designed to do, we're not being used in that capacity as opposed to being babysitters.
Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate the time. Thank you. There's universal agreement among the lawmen that the wall works. The problem is the wall ends, leaving hundreds of miles of border unprotected. There's miles of wall just waiting to be built, and the contracts are signed, so funding isn't a problem. The matter is political will. Locals tell me construction stopped on January 21st. A lot else changed January 21st, which all of our reporting indicates led to the situation we have now, the record numbers of people coming into America illegally. At current pace, 200,000 a month. That's roughly the population of Little Rock, Arkansas, coming into the United States every month. And as we know, tens, if not at least 100,000 of those are released into the United States. Depending on where you live, that can feel like a rather academic problem. But for every town on the border, it's becoming an existential crisis. Marky Martin is up the Rio Grande in Del Rio, Texas, where last week 15,000 Haitian migrants rushed the border, but they say they've been dealing with this problem for a long time. Marky, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Leland. A lot of residents here tell me they blame the Biden administration's immigration policies for taking away their livelihood. And in some of these hardest hit industries, like tourism, for example, many are now left wondering how long they can hold on.
Right here is the Texas-Mexico border.
Ray Hanselman is one of Del Rio's leading hunting and fishing guides. 8 months of relaxed immigration policies under the Biden administration have overwhelmed sleepy border towns like his, with migrants, law enforcement, and negative press. And then 15,000 Haitians swarmed the international bridge, causing some of his most recent clients to cancel last minute.
I mean, would you want to go somewhere where there's 20,000 military-age people standing, wanting, to come across? Yeah, we might be this far from just barely in the United States, but we're in the United States just as much as LA or New York or any of those others. So we deserve as much protection and from our federal government as anybody.
We lost, I think we're down 20% in our lake visitations.
Blanca Larson with the Chamber of Commerce says there's a Del Rio double whammy. Illegal immigration gives the city a bad name, and the ban on non-essential travel continues to strain the area financially.
It's like one community. We can't function without the other. Mexico, Ciudad Acuña depends on Del Rio, and Del Rio depends on Ciudad Acuña.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who no longer see the border as a safe or ideal place to come vacation or for leisure. Now, our fishing guide, Ray, is a lifelong Del Rioan, and for the first time ever, he and his family have actually considered a move. And now, Leland, he is calling on President Biden and Vice President Harris to come see the problem that they have created for themselves. Leland.
Yeah, he wouldn't be the first person we've talked to on the border who would like a visit from the president. Marky, thank you very much. With that, we bring in our panel here. Joining us on the dock, Lieutenant Chris Oliveiras of the Texas Department of Public Safety. You saw him a few times during some of our pieces. Jorge Ventura, a reporter who spent years following the border crisis and joins us now. And Joel Villarreal, mayor of Rio Grande City, that's just up the river from here and experiences some of the same problems that Del Rio does. We'll start with you, Mayor. How long can your community hang on with what immigration policies, both sides of the immigration policies are doing?
This is not sustainable. In fact, when you're looking at this immigration crisis, it does have a deleterious effect on our communities, our local economies. In fact, oftentimes when I'm visiting with potential investors, I find myself having to continually correct this false narrative and mischaracterization of our communities. And that's one of the things that we need to continually drive. For example, the Rio Grande Valley is a great place to live, to work, and to forge the American dream. We have
aside from the mosquitoes, it's been fantastic. What else would President Biden learn if he came down here to the border that you feel he doesn't understand?
Well, and that's the point. You see, And this is something that we need to say. Contrary to misconceptions, we've had a humanitarian crisis under every president for the last several decades. And this is nothing different. And that's one of the things that we truly, if we continue in the same trajectory without prioritizing immigration reform and subsequently having the political will to address it, then 10 years from today, we're going to be having the same conversation.
Well, we've had it since every president since Reagan.
Absolutely.
Lieutenant, I wanted to get your thought on this. Because so often when you hear the conversation, it's either one or the other, right? Either we have border security and therefore we are heartless, terrible human beings, or if you listen to cable news, on the other side, if we grant asylum to anybody, then we have open borders and people are going to take over America. Those are the two extremes. Is there a middle ground where you and your fellow lawmen can keep the country safe and the border secure and still allow those who have legitimate claims for asylum to get in?
Right. So one thing I want to touch what the mayor said. He's right on point as far as previous administrations. We always had this issue. We always had illegal immigration. We always had drugs pouring into our state. But nothing to what we see right now, the historic numbers. It's unprecedented what we're seeing right now. But yes, there is a middle ground. And the fact is that we are deploying state resources right now to the southern border to try to surge the border to stem migration that's coming across, that's affecting potential cities, along the border. Yeah. And right now, it's just been historic, the numbers that we're seeing, and we're providing so many resources to help our federal partners. Right now, we're deploying over 1,000 Texas Department of Public Safety personnel to the southern border from the Rio Grande Valley to Del Rio, and that's including the Texas Military Department as well. So a lot of resources are going into this because right now the federal government is not stepping in, they're not taking action. So,
and a lot of your troopers are assigned other places in the state to try and deal with this. Or hey, you've been on the front lines of this and talked to so many of the people coming over. Is there a clear distinction between the bad guys, if you will, the smugglers, the cartel members, and the people coming to America trying to seek a better life?
It's a clear distinction, but the thing what we're seeing right now is that these vulnerable communities in Central America, South America, and beyond, they're being taken advantage by these cartels and human smugglers that are selling them a false dream that, hey, if you just make it to the border, you'll be released into the United States.
So long as you pay us $5 or $10 or $15 or $25,000.
Exactly, and Leland here is actually, these are the bracelets that the migrants have to wear to pay to cross the Rio Grande River. This is what we were reporting here last night, but women, children, family units all have to pay these human smugglers, these cartels, to cross, and it's extremely dangerous because we're putting the most vulnerable communities in these countries in danger.
You and I saw a lot of 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. Some of the Border Patrol guys were saying how oftentimes they're delivering babies out here. They're having 10-month-old babies die. Where does this go next? We already know that there's 4,000 or 5,000 more Haitians coming. Are you all just sort of preparing for the next city that they come to?
That's all we can do right now is just deploy our resources, work with our local officials, work with our local police departments, county officials as well, county sheriffs, because this surge is going to continue unless there's some policies that are put in place.
Mayor, as you think about this, you watch what was happening in Del Rio with 15 or 20,000 people. Did you think, hey, this could have just as easily been my town?
Absolutely. In fact, and this is one thing, contrary to misconceptions, border communities are in favor of securing the border. The question is simply how. What is that right mixture of personnel, infrastructure, and technology? We have local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies working together to safeguard the public and secure the border. And that's one thing that, and we praise our law enforcement. We support them 100%, and they are doing a tremendous job. However, there's something where they do need the help in D.C. And absolutely that's something that our politicians, that are leaders need to really rectify in reference to this whole concept.
You can have both at one time. One thing that caught our eye, and we say this not in jest, but to make a point. This is video from China about building a wall, quote unquote, and they have one pretty incredible wall. The video you're watching right there was from some of Lieutenant Alvarez's men in the drug stashes they found. But we're going to put this video up. There it is from China of a barbed wire on their southern border. Is there a way, Lieutenant, to have a impenetrable wall but still have a place that people can come and seek asylum?
So one thing that Governor Greg Abbott has done, in addition to launching and deploying all these resources to the southern border, he got the Texas Military Department to construct a border fence in Del Rio because of the surge that Del Rio was facing. So now we have construction of a border fence on some of the properties, some of the ranches, and we are making arrests on some of these illegal immigrants that are getting across. Now, these are the single males and females that are avoiding apprehension. As far as families and unaccompanied children, they're still getting released to Border Patrol, and Border Patrol processes them. But our main focus is the criminal elements, the ones that are getting by us, the ones that are avoiding detection, because we've come across criminal gang members, MS-13, we come across individuals that have ties to criminal, transnational criminal organizations as well. So it's not only a humanitarian crisis, also a national security crisis as well.
Yeah, we've heard that from a number of people with knowledge of what's happening here. Jorge, real quickly, last to you. How good are the criminal elements at sneaking in with these people coming seeking asylum? Do you run into people and it's very clear you've got part of the group that everybody makes sense and there's a quiet guy over there who's very different than the rest?
So what we're seeing when we speak to Border Patrol sources is that these cartels and human smuggling groups, they like to push up these family units to one sector at a time. Like this, Border Patrol is busy apprehending these units, and like that, the drugs come in. The last time I spoke to a Border Patrol source, he's telling me that the fentanyl increase has been 600% into the country.
Wow.
So it's alarming what's happening. It's numbers that we've never seen before.
Stunning numbers. Gentlemen, thank you all. We'll be right back.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's why I'm moving forward with vaccination requirements wherever I can.
All right, President Biden just a couple of hours ago doubling down on forcing the 90 million Americans who don't have the shot to get one. And if you want to come to the United States legally in many cases, you need to show proof of vaccination. Not so if you come here illegally. Of course, many are released into the country without either a vaccine or even a COVID test. We're back with Jorge Ventura, who spent the past couple of months reporting from the border, and you really highlighted so much of this during your reporting. We hear from everybody, oh, so many of these people are being taken for processing and given COVID tests. Is that your experience?
Not at all. So right when the Haitian migrant crisis started, they started releasing them in record numbers. And we would be finding Haitians just sleeping outside the airport. And, you know, we would just briefly ask them, were you COVID tested before being released into the public? And they would be honest and said, we haven't been tested. And Secretary Mayorga actually confirmed our reporting a couple of days later that those 12,000 Haitians that are released have not been tested for COVID-19.
Putting the Haitian migrants aside, the people that you're talking to who are coming up, most of them are the family units, the people seeking asylum, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is COVID something that they're scared of? You ask them, do you want a vaccine or anything like that? Do they have a thought about this? Is it something they talk about?
They don't talk about that. They just talk about the dangers that they're escaping. And, yeah, they're not even thinking about COVID-19.
Yeah, interesting. So we want to play a quick soundbite. This is some of your video of a number of the migrants you ran into. We want, very similar to the situation we were in, take a listen to this. This is from Lieutenant Oliveiras talking about the situation of dealing with immigration versus dealing with criminals. Take a listen. Fair enough to say that the concept of stopping illegal immigration is out the window. Now it's about stopping drugs and guns.
That's correct. That's the primary focus for now, is to focus on the criminal activity, because we know the cartels, the smuggling organizations are exploiting the current crisis right now.
Is it clear to you from your reporting that things have changed from last year and how the cartels are doing business?
Oh, it's drastically changed. The biggest thing that we're seeing right now is the removal of the Remain in Mexico policy. That was actually hurting the cartels, because immigrants that were seeking asylum or crossing over to the United States illegally would have to wait in Mexico for that court order. We're not seeing that anymore. As you know, they're being released into the United States and given a court order, but speaking to Border Patrol, only 13% of those migrants ever even attend to that court order.
Okay, so of all the people who are granted temporary status, 60 days, they go out into America. For example, take that statistic of the 10,000 Haitians, only 1,300 are going to show up, or 1,500 out of 12,000 are going to show up for their court order. When you talk to people, do they understand that they don't need to show up? Are any of them worried if they don't show up?
No, they're already happy that they've made it. They're already living the American dream.
Well, it's a good dream to live. The people that you talk to who are coming across the border, many of them would have been forced to stay in Mexico. So what I'm trying to get at is it seems as though the Remain in Mexico policy actually hurt the cartels more than it, quote unquote, would have hurt the people who were seeking asylum.
Exactly. So we're seeing is that the cartels are exploiting these vulnerable family units. You know, these people are not.
What are they promised
dangerous
by the cartels?
They're promised an American life, and that this administration is going to grant them a temporary protected status. And that's why we're seeing this record number come in. And according to Border Patrol, These cartels are making up to $14 million a day smuggling humans into the country. And the business is even better because they're able now to bring drugs easier into the country, especially fentanyl. That's the #1 target, into American towns and cities. And we're seeing this every day on a daily basis. It's become the new normal here.
Yeah, so much of this is your video that we're showing, some of ours as well. But as the Border Patrol and Texas Department of Public Safety is dealing with all of the people you're seeing here, that's when the cartel knows that they can smuggle fentanyl or cocaine or whatever 500 or 1,000 yards up the river. As you talk to all these people who are captured, how many of them feel as though their dreams are now dashed when they're captured, or are they intending to get captured?
They're intending to get captured. So when these family units, they want to turn themselves into Border Patrol. The big worry that Border Patrol has is the drug runners and those single males that don't want to be apprehended. That's the gotaways number. So that is a number that that Border Patrol cannot apprehend, and they're into the country, and we have no type of information on them.
Where's this crisis going from here?
It seems like it's.
I mean, are we going to get to 300,000?
It looks like it. I mean, for the first time in Border Patrol history, July and August was the first time ever we had back-to-back months with over 200,000 apprehensions. The country we're in now is over 1 million apprehensions, and it looks like we're on the road to 200,000. And right now, the cartel is still selling that dream. As long as you make it, you're going to get released into this country. And so far, they're right. I mean, we saw it with the Haitians. If you just claim you're a family, there's no way to verify if these are family units or not, because those Haitians discriminate.
And you've done reporting from down in Mexico and South America as well. When you're talking to people down there, is the Biden administration's policy literally being used as a marketing ploy by the cartels?
Exactly. It's like basically it's a selling tactic. And it's saying this is the time to come now. And they're coming. And so it's not just the Haitians, as we've seen. It's the Venezuelans, the Central Americans are still coming.
I met some kids from El Salvador.
Yeah, we were in Roma last night speaking to Nicaraguans who were smuggled in, and they had those wristbands on them. You guys could see here. These are what they have to pay to come over the country. So, and it says here, guys, in Spanish is entregas, which means delivered. So there's two things here, Leland. It's these migrants have either already paid their way or they essentially become indentured servants here in the United States.
Yeah, as we understood it, and you probably know this better, but depending on which wristband you had, depending on which service you got, whether or not you got to go to a stash house, whether or not they would get you through checkpoints, it's almost like being in a nightclub, whether you pay for the VIP bottle service or you just walk in.
Exactly. They're treating these migrants like Amazon Prime products. And right here, see, we have a black one, a purple one, and a red one. So it's different cartels, different smuggling groups that control the southern border. And it's become the new normal, and that's scary to say that it's happening here in the United States at like I said, a record that we've never seen it. We're on the road to 200,000 apprehensions on our border. It's something we never believed.
As you've been out here, does the number 1 to 1 or 1 to 2 of gotaways make sense to you?
Yes, and when I'm speaking to Border Patrol, that's the number that they're most scared about is the gotaways and those drug runners that are making their way inside the country.
Hey, incredible reporting, and we look forward to following it. Thank you. All right, we'll be right back.